Well, hello there, all the good people on the internet. Welcome to an exciting tutorial on Deno. There has been a lot of talk recently about Deno, and people have been wondering if Node is dead. Let's find the answer to it together. Let's jump right into it. Before we can start coding, let's understand a few things about Deno. The first and very obvious question is, what is this Deno after all? So their website states that Deno is a simple, modern, and secure runtime for JavaScript and TypeScript that uses V8 and is built in Rust. What this means is that, just like Node, Deno is a platform or software which allows you to execute JavaScript. A very good thing about Deno is it supports TypeScript out of the box. Deno uses V8 engine. You might be wondering what V8 engine is. V8 Engine is nothing but a software that actually parses and executes your JavaScript or TypeScript code. Deno is written completely in Rust, which is a programming language very similar to C++ and is focused more on performance and safety. So to summarize Deno, it is more or less like Node but with two advantages. It supports TypeScript out of the box and is focused more on security. The second question that you all might be wondering is, why Deno when you already have Node? There are 5 reasons that I believe justify this question. First one being, Deno supports TypeScript out of the box. No extra plugins are required. In case of Node, you require extra plugins to make TypeScript work, which is very tedious. Second point, the team that is developing Deno has put a lot of effort in making Deno secure, which they have done by introducing flags. Do not worry what flags are. I will tell you in the later part of tutorial. Third point, they have removed the concept of having a separate folder for all the packages, all the dependencies. Rather, they use a cache to store all the dependencies. Fourth point, no package.json. This personally I don't like very much because it was very good to have a single file which you can share among your teammates and they can download all the dependencies by typing npm install. Further on, the fifth point, a single executable file is maintained in Deno, which is a great thing. Now let's talk about differences between Deno and Node. The very first noticeable difference is Deno supports TypeScript out of the box, but Node does not. Second one, as I've already mentioned, that the prime focus of team developing Deno was security, and they have provided extra flags to access anything in the system, which is not true in case of Node. Third point, Deno uses cache to store all the dependencies rather than having a separate folder like in Node, which makes it very easy to manage and the working directory is more cleaner. Fourth point, a thing that I actually liked about Node was package.json, which maintained all the dependencies in Node, but it's not there in Deno. They have removed it. Fifth point, Deno is new, so all latest softwares like V8 and Rust are being used. Whereas in Node, softwares like Zip, which have been deprecated by Google, are still being used. Now let's see what all is required to create an API in Deno. First step is to install Deno itself. To install Deno, open up your browser, search deno.land. This will open the official website of Deno. Here you have a command that you need to write in your terminal and execute for Mac and Linux. For Windows, you need to type this command in PowerShell and execute it. The second step is to install Denon. Denon is a replacement of NodeMon for Deno. To install Denon, go to third-party modules, search for Denon. Here you can find the command that you need to execute in order to install Denon. Third step is to install Postman. To install Postman, simply search Postman. The first link will be the link to download Postman. Here you can find the link for Windows, macOS, and Linux. We need Postman as we are not building the front end, so we need a method to call the API. Third step is to know TypeScript. We require a basic knowledge of TypeScript so that you can follow along this tutorial. This concludes the boring theory part. Now it's time to get into the fun part. Open up your favorite editor and let's start coding. I have opened up my Visual Studio Code and there's an empty directory, so we are ready to go. Before you start coding, make sure you have downloaded all the dependencies that I have mentioned earlier. For this tutorial, we will be using Attain framework for our API development. Why Attain? Personally, when I searched through all the third-party modules available in Deno, Attain was the only framework which was very close to Express. Express is the most popular API framework in Node. So we will be using Attain. How to install Attain? I'll show you how to install anything in Deno. Open up the browser, search or go to their website deno.land, go to third-party modules. Whichever module you need to install, just search that module. For now, we'll search Attain. Here you'll see a command. So what this does is, it will, once you execute your program, it will see all the dependencies and download it and cache it. For my case, it won't be downloading because I've already cached it once. In your case, it will show what all it has downloaded once you execute the program. That is a very good feature I'll personally liked because it reduces the load on the directory, the working directory. You don't have a bunch of random files there. The directory is very clean. So we'll copy this command or the import. We'll create a file app.ts, the main file, and say copy the command. For now, we only require app as a simple API. Now, just like Express, all you need to do is say const app is equals to new app. This will create a new application for us. Now we need to create routes. How do we create a route? Route is basically the URL will that the person will access and you will handle it. So how do you do that? App.use. It will take two parameters. One is the route itself. So we'll say the default route for now, and it will expect a callback. The callback will also have two parameters just like Express, a request and a response. Now all we'll send back is a simple hello world. Hello world. Now we need to start the server. How do we start the server? Just say app.listen. So what it does is it'll start the server and it'll start listening for all the URLs that the person accesses. We need to specify the port number as well on which port the app will be running. For now we'll run it on 3000. Just console log the message that it started. So server is up. There we go. And we are done for the very basic API. Now open up the terminal. Just like Node, say deno run app.ts. Now, this is a very important point. Why did we get that error? Deno is saying that you need to run it with allow net flag. What that means is that Deno does not have permission to access the network. This is why Deno is secure than Node. In Node, it would have run. Why? Because Node does not require an explicit permission to access anything. It implicitly takes for granted that the access has been provided by the user. But here we can block all the accesses and allow only the accesses that we require. Here it requires net. Similarly, if it would have required environment or a read write to disk, we would have to give those required flags. For now, we'll run it with deno run allow net app.ts. Server is up. Yay. Now we'll open up our postman to test whether the server is actually running or not. It open. We'll start with a new tab, get request, HT. TP localhost 3000 and we say send. Here it says hello world. So now you're done with your first part. You have created a basic API, but we are not done here. We still have more to do. What we will be doing in this tutorial is we will be learning how to create a login page and a sign up page. Not the UI part, we'll be sending data through Postman, but the backend part. How do we handle it and how do we return a response and check the data? We will be doing it properly with all those proper data structure and proper file structure or the workspace structure. So let's start with the second part. Now, let's start with the login page and sign up page. So first, we will understand the directory structure. Let me increase the font size so you can see better. Now, the first folder that we'll have will be controller. Why do we need a controller? So basically, you do not want to write all your logic in app.use or app.post or any of the requests. You want to have a separate controller which will be called when the API gets hit. You do not want to write the same logic again and again. You want to reuse the code. That's why you write the controller which will control all your API requests. The second we will have is router. This is very important. Why do we need this? As you can see here, you have written slash and then the controller. Basically, this is what the controller is, and we will be separating it from here to another folder called controller, which will handle all the route controlling part. So why do we need a router? Just like slash, you might have 1,000 more APIs for your application. You can't have all those 1,000 API here and then just call that controller function. It will be impossible for anyone to read or understand what is going on. That is why you need a router. What you do in a router is you define your major parts of your API. So say if you have a user, the major function that you want to perform on a user is login or sign up. So all you need to do is slash user and then here you can call say user router. So what this will do is whenever the slash user is there in the URL, it will redirect it to this router. Then internally, you can have another route saying app.use slash login and app.use slash sign up. That will take care of the functionality of login and sign up, which makes your main file, the app.ts, very clean and understandable. The another folder that we need is repository. Repository. So this will handle all the major database related connection and the call. All the database related logic should be written in repository. For our case, we are not using any database, so our database here is just a file or a data, just an array of data that we will be using. But if you're using a database, all your database related queries or your database related schema should be defined in the repository. The last folder is types. So as you're using TypeScript, it is very important to have all your data types typed because if you're not using types, then it might cause a problem later on that you won't will not be able to understand what the type of the data is that you are going to use. So for that, you need to define all the types for the data type. So we'll start with types now. We'll create a new file, say types.ts. Make sure you use TypeScript for all the extension or else it will cause errors at the time of compilation. So now types, we will basically have two major types. One will be login type and a sign up type because this is a simple login and sign up scenario. First, we will export interface. We will define the interface login schema. In schema, we will have username type string, then password type string, This completes the login schema. Second, we will have interface sign up schema. Now, here what we want. We want to have name, type string, then again username, that will be type string, then password, type string, and then finally email, which will also be of type string. I hope you understood what type means and why do we need types. Now, let's move to router. We will create a new file, say user router.ts. So why we have written user router? Similarly to user, you might have a different uh, API, say post API, which will post some content to your database. That to handle that, you need a post router. It's just a naming convention that you need to follow so that you can understand your code later on. Now user router, here we have to use this library again. Here we will use the other three imports that I had deleted earlier. First was the router, second was the response, and then request. Similar to app, you have to create a router here. A router is no different from app. The only thing is a router cannot be executed without an app. App is a superclass of router. So you need to create a router, say const user router is equals to new router. So we have created a router. Now we need to define the API paths. The first one will be user router dot post. We will be using post method as we have to send the data body. Post slash will say login, and we will have some controller say user login. Let's name it this. This will handle the request on login when it comes. The second will be user router dot post slash say sign up. Let's name it sign up, and it will be sign up. No, sorry, user sign up. Yeah, this makes sense. Now all we need to do is export our router. We won't be using response and request here. I'm very sorry. This will be used in the controller. Now it's time for the controller. We will create a new controller, say user controller.ts. Here we will use those two requests and response. Request, then response. So now we need to define the logic behind the user router. So the two functions that we need to define here is user login and user sign up. Before that, let's first define our database. For repository, all I will do is define user data.ts, which will have the user data. Here, I won't be doing anything. I'll just define few users. So I'll say const, no, not const, let. I won't be using const because this data will be modified later. So const, if you write const, you cannot modify the data later. So let users. Now we have to use TypeScript. So here we need to define the type of the user. It will be sign up schema. We imported that sign up schema from types.ts. User schema, sign up schemas will be equal to. Now here we can clearly see the four things that we need. This is a very good feature about TypeScript. First, we'll define name. Name we can write John Doe. Then username we can have John Doe. Then password we can have as pass. Then the final thing that we need is email. So we can say email as John Doe @gmail.com. Let's consider that. Uh, I'll copy this user. Sorry, as it's an array, it's better to cut. As it's an array, we will define at least two users. First will be this, and the second will be, say, uh, what should we give it a name as? Say Ram. No. Mm, let's say Vatsalya. Username Vatsal. Password pass. Maybe pass two, pass one, and then vatsal@gmail.com. So we are getting an error here is declared but never used. That is fine. Here we will be exporting users default. Where is default? Default users. Fine. This is over. Now we can write our controller. So in controller, we need two functions. First, we will declare those functions. We need to export them. Remember that. Export const user login is equals to function which will have a request. Now we need to define what the request type will be. It will be type request, and response will be of type response. You do not need to do that in case of use, because in use it is already defined internally. But in case of posts, it is not. Here you need to define it. Here, what we will do is, first we will get the user from the request, the username and password. How do we do that? We will say const body equal to, we'll fetch that from the request body, await request dot body. Now, this will still not have the value. To extract the value, we have to call again await dot value here. Now, why is it giving error? The error is because we haven't written async. So whenever you write await, you need to have an async function. Now, await is done. We have the body. Now, we need to get the username and password from body and check it with the database. Here, as we do not use database, we are just using a mock data. We will just use the mock data to search. We will just use the body and search it in the mock data. So we'll use a simple for loop for that, nothing to be complicated. It's just the main concept here to learn is how to create the API, not what goes inside the controller. So we'll say let, okay, first we'll say for, sorry, let I is equals to 0, I is less than users dot size, oh sorry, length, dot length. Why do I not have the length? User dot, oh, okay, wait, yeah, I understood. Okay, we have to define it as array. Sorry, I forgot that. We need to define it as an array because it's an array. So now it will have length. Yeah, now we are getting the length and I plus plus. Now inside for loop, all we need to do is say if body dot username. Okay, we'll define the body type also here. It will be of login schema type, so that we can have a better, see, I had a typo and it detected that it's not a part of body because we gave it a type. So body dot, we can clearly see there are two types of objects in body. One is username, and if we see if username is equivalent to user users I dot username Then if it is true, we will see if body dot password is equal to user I dot password. So we have the basic check here. Now if it is correct, all we will do is return a response with status 200, 200 and send. We'll send say logged in. Now if it is not a valid user, what we will do is we will return res.status 400 as it is unauthorized send unauthorized here. Now that makes sense. Okay, this looks good. Let's test it. Why is user? Okay, now we need to import it here. For now, we'll just comment this line so that we can test our login here. Yeah, so you can see user is there. We will give it a proper name. It will be slash v1 slash API slash user. And here, all we need to do is import our router, a user router. See how much cleaner that code looks. You can clearly understand whenever there's a API which is calling v1 slash API slash user in its part, you need to call this user router. Inside user router, you have these two routes. So if it is a user slash login, execute user login. If it is a user slash sign up, execute user slash sign up. So let's test it. Where is the terminal? Let's open our previous terminal, close this, clear this out, call this tenor in. Okay, server is up. So here, now if we say send, see, there is no response because this part does not exist anymore. We'll cancel this. We'll call slash v1 slash API slash user slash login. Now if we call send, there won't be any response because this we didn't send any body. So if we send our body, say raw, type JSON, we create a JSON object with username as John Doe and password as pass and send it. Okay, this did not work. Why? Okay, let's debug it. Let's see what happened. We'll just console.log body. Uh, okay, so yeah, I forgot we need to use denon. So to use denon, just type denon uh, run dash dash allow net app.ts. So what this will allow is it will create a server and you do not have to close the server again and again to restart your server after changes. All you need to do is say control save and it will start for you. So if we send this, let's see. Okay, it did not call the API. There is an error. Let's see. Okay. User routes. Okay, so I understood. Post. Very sorry for that. You need to have a post as it's a post request. So now let's try this and see we are logged in. So the logged in part is completed. You can go ahead. You can connect to database. There are a bunch of the third-party modules available. There's one called Mongo that allows you to connect to MongoDB, so you can check that out. Now let's try with sign up. For sign up, let's uncomment this. So you saw it automatically detected changes and compiled the file again. So it's throwing error, that is obvious. Now let's try creating our sign up export. If I can type, okay, const user sign up. Again, it will be an async function because we need to get the body. Request will be of type request. Rest will be of type response. Now, first, what we need to do is we need to get the body. So to get the body, you know the drill. Await, again await. If I can type request dot body dot value. So we have the body. Now all that is left is to insert the body back into the user database. So how do we do that? User dot push body. Now here again we need to make sure that it is the data type that we want. So what we do is we call sign up schema. Here we go. Now we will send a response saying status 201, which means created, dot send user inserted, or let's say sign up completed, the exclamation. That looks good. So let's import this, and I think we are good to go. Okay, let's save this first. Then it's restarting. Okay, it compiled successfully. Let's wait for the server to be up. Server is up. Now, again, make sure it is the post API. I'm very sorry for that mistake. Now, okay, let's put some name. Say uh, Romeo Jan. Something. I really don't care about the name. Romeo Jan. Password to Jan only, right? Yeah. Then email Romeo Jan at the rate, let's say google.com. Perfect. Add the comma here. Make sure you change it to sign up, or else you will again end up debugging and scratching your head, just like me. Now sign up is done. Let's send and see what happens. So again, there is some issue. Oh, okay, I understood. I'm sorry, a typo. Now let's save it, restart it. Server is up, and then send. Yeah, sign up completed. Woohoo! So sign up is completed, but we need to check whether the user can be logged in. So go back to login, remove name, remove email, send, and it's login. So we have created our API. This is how you create an API in Deno. This concludes today's tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any doubts, feel free to reach out to me. If you liked my tutorial, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I will continue to post some amazing tutorials, so don't miss out on them. It's goodbye till next time.